Hello and welcome to episode 108 of the Green Bay Outdoors podcast. My name's Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Ryan.
Today we have a special guest on with us. So we have Shelby from LEM. So if you've seen our social medias, every time we harvest something, you're going to see us doing something with it because we eat everything we get, and we're probably putting it through a meat grinder or at the very least just vacuum sealing it, and you will see that familiar, awesome colored, I might add, green colored LEM logo, and that is our partner for everything when it comes to game processing. It was a super easy relationship, and I hate advertisements, especially on podcasts and stuff like that too. So I'm going to do my best to not sound like it, but it might a little bit because I am a big believer in the products because I have used them forever. The reason why we started working with LEM was I was like, I use all your stuff. And they're like, well, okay. And I would get jumping on the first phone call with them. I was like, well, what do you guys think about this? And I've always felt like this about the products, and always like that. And we just started off like this super organic relationship because we have always used the products, and especially the meat grinders. That's kind of what started it with everything. But since then, we've got to go a little bit deeper with the different game processing equipment and the different things LEM has to offer. Now, we were filming a turkey episode for the National Wild Turkey Federation and also History Channel, and the idea was to teach about conservation and turkeys and everything that goes into it, because talk about a success story. 1960, the wild turkey was almost extinct. Now we have a huntable population in so many different states. Matter of fact, 49 of them. The only one we got left is Alaska, but they don't really like the weather there. And how do you blame them? How do you blame them at that point? And it's a long walk to get there, so it's a whole thing. But the point is, we have turkeys pretty much everywhere now. It's a super big success story, and we're able to go out and harvest them and hunt them, and there's a population that can sustain hunting, which is just awesome because personally I like to eat them. And the reason why I bring that up is because I was able to process some of the some turkey meat from this past week of filming. We had an incredible filming experience. We went and filmed in South Carolina for a week and had absolutely no luck on turkeys. And it's really interesting because they say that in South Carolina there, in the area that we were in, it's like this little fortress of area that turkeys always survive there. So even when they were pretty much everywhere else, shot within an inch of their life, pretty much every state was overhunted, lost of habitat. They were just completely wiped out. This was like one of the last strongholds, was this area in South Carolina. And the tale goes that's because they're the hardest ones to hunt in the world, is in that area. And I believe them because now I've confirmed it. I found Bigfoot of turkeys. You're not going to get them. They're super intelligent.
Don't try.
If you were to Google what is the hardest turkey to harvest, you will get 75% of the people saying eastern turkeys are the hardest. Now, I swear to you, I know I can already feel the comments coming. People will argue that. They will freak out that you said that. How dare you? They're the easiest. I get them every time. They're hardest here. You don't know. Blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, these ones survived everything. So a lot of the turkeys that we have in Michigan and other states that have eastern turkeys, including places like California, which I don't know how you can still say eastern, I guess, in comparison to like Japan, but
That's true.
They're still eastern because it's just that subspecies. But the eastern turkey, they've been transplanted all over the United States, but from this area. So the turkeys that we were hunting in Michigan, and this is how we tied the story together, were actual descendants, most likely, from turkeys that were brought over from South Carolina back in the day. So, again, 1960, they were almost gone, if not gone, and now we have a huntable population because of those birds. Ryan and I got out there, and from the very time when I was setting decoys up, while Ryan was getting the chairs together, getting the camera equipment together, everything like that, getting everything set up, I'm putting out all the decoys. I get back in, sit next to Ryan, and I got those loud snacks in my pockets. I had like granola bars or something, a kind bar. I was like, it was really loud in my pocket, so I was getting that out, setting it down. Got the call out, and I was like, okay, I'll do just like a little couple soft yelps or something like that, just to see if there's anything nearby. As soon as I do this, the woods lights up. You hear,
it was crazy,
and it was. They all went in an order. It wasn't they all did it at once. They were like goom, 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 goom. But it was all around us. And my heart just starts beating through my chest. I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening right now.
It was like the cartoons where like one dog starts barking and then the next one does, and then the whole town
Keeps
dogs.
panning out.
Yeah.
All dogs are barking.
But when you spent a week in South Carolina,
Saw nothing.
getting outsmarted by everything, you heard stuff, but never close. And it was always, today it was there, tomorrow it was that.
Yeah.
You know, what did I
Spent a lot of time chasing.
Yes. My heart just starts racing. We look out to the left. We have like 10 deer coming through. Oh, don't worry. Then we're near a river. Wood ducks start soaring into the river. Then a couple geese come in, honking their heads off as loud as they can, just sending the turkeys into a fiesta of screaming. They're just barking back and forth at each other. Gobble, honk, just scream their heads off. We look to our left again, another area. All of a sudden, it was so big. It looked like a gray fox, but it was so big that Ryan's like, it's got to be a coyote. We had that come in. And then all of a sudden we see hens coming out of the trees, which is weird because normally the males will come out of the trees before the hens. The hens tend to come down after the males.
The hens showed up a while earlier, surprisingly.
Yeah, the hens came down first by a long shot. The hens come down, and then all of a sudden gobblers start coming down out of the trees, and they're in like this valley in between Ryan and I. So there's a big valley. It's kind of swampy. There's a river off to our left that's got geese and ducks everywhere. We got deer walking right by us. Got coyote and or gray foxes running through. It's an extravaganza of noise. It's the loudest I've ever heard the woods in my life. Everything's going on. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. But then I was like, man, when stuff feels this good, a lot of times it ain't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please don't let this
Especially
suck.
in our experience.
Right. So there's a big valley, and it's all swampy in there in front of us. And then there's like a hill, and we're at the top of that hill. And the hill is like 25 yards away from us. The drop into the valley is 25 yards away from us. The premise being, as soon as that turkey came up the hill, as soon as he was in vision, he would only have a few seconds to make us before we could pop him.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, one big tom, there was like 5 or 6 big toms, though, and they were all toms. Normally, like when you see them grouped up like that, it's always been jakes in my experience, but it's all toms. My heart's, I'm shaking. I went through so many ups and downs of like adrenaline to like, I don't know if they're going to come, to adrenaline to I don't know if they're going to come, that I had a headache by the time it was all over. But this one's working around in front of us, and then he kind of goes off to the side, but he's too close to the hillside that I can't see him, because you can only see, a little bit a ways away from the hill. And the other ones are coming in. So Ryan and I are kind of getting all situated, getting ready for those ones, thinking they're going to make it in. And they get within about 60 yards and then hang up, kind of, which is pretty normal. But I'm thinking they're still going to come. I've got decoys there. And then all of a sudden, we're getting all set up for those. And out of the corner of my eye comes the original turkey. He had gone up the hill. Now he's on even ground with us and was walking in from our right, so we couldn't see him anymore. And then he just appeared. And I was like, grabbed Ryan's leg. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, right in front of us. So I lift up. And it I can't see him, even though the camera can, which was kind of good because Lord knows I would have shot the second I had the chance. So the camera has him filmed for like a minute and a half, and I always see those videos online and stuff where I'm like, shoot, I would have shot 10 minutes ago. But now people are going to think I'm that guy because I couldn't see the thing even though the camera could. I could see him on the camera screen, but not directly. Turkey walks out, and then boom, I was able to lights out him.
Yeah.
I rewatched the footage. Ryan's still filming, and you see the two turkeys that were hung up at 60 yards are kind of just pacing. But all we can kind of see is their necks and heads because they're too close to the hill, but they're like 50, 60 yards away. And Ryan and I are like, I can't believe that happened. Oh, my gosh, that worked out so great. We hugged. We were pumped beyond belief. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we should get out, double check it's, didn't get up and try and move or anything like that because it rolled down the hill after I shot it. He starts to undo the zipper. I'm like, those two are still right there. I go, it's 55, 60 yards. We're using Boss shells. We have a super tight Carlson choke, and I'm like, I think you should try. He goes, are you sure? So then he leans down. And he's hunting out of a blind. So he's leaned down with his shoulder all crooked, hanging out the front of the blind, shoots, drops the second one.
I can't believe it.
Completely drops it. I'm like, this is the single greatest day of my life because Ryan hunts as well. So now he gets one, even though he was filming. I get one. They're both big toms. Incredible. We're so excited. AJ was over with Ryan, or over with Jeffrey, filming with him. So AJ comes over because he's looking for any reason to get away from Jeff. And I'm just kidding. So AJ comes over to help us film. So we're filming like different talk things and cleaning and all different sorts of things with the turkey. And then all of a sudden I hear boom, and it's just far enough away that I'm like, I think that might be Jeffrey. So I call him. He's like, yeah, I got one. Turns out AJ had set up a camera for him and had it rolling. So Jeffrey got that one on camera. He shot the biggest tom of all of us. This thing had a neck on it I was jealous of.
He always shoots the biggest turkeys.
He really does. So then he shoots the third one. So now we have 2 on camera. Ryan, our producer, got one. And everything, we went back and reviewed all the footage, and it's epic.
It's flawless.
Ryan shot mine in 6K, which is a bonkers quality. Borderline too good. It gets a little too clear, you know. But it was just unbelievable. The morning itself was great, and I feel a little guilty telling that story as the opener because I know you're a big fan of turkey hunting, and that's like your passion is turkey hunting.
Absolutely.
And the way that I've worked with the LEM team now for a while, and when they were describing you, they're like, she's our go-to when we're like, hey, you're the actual hunter. We want to make or huntress, or is that I don't know the official.
I don't know
either way works.
It doesn't matter, right? She's the official one on the team that's like, no, that makes sense. You should word it that way, or no, a hunter wouldn't say that.
Identify?
Yeah, exactly. So she's like the pulse of the hunting for LEM, which is why I was so pumped to have you on, but also an avid turkey killer. So I know that you were going out of town. I know, was it Kentucky that you were going to?
Yeah, so we went for Kentucky opener, and we did not have the same experience you did, unfortunately.
You had our South Carolina experience.
Yes, absolutely. We were so close so many times and just couldn't make it happen.
Were you seeing some at least?
Yeah, we saw the first day we saw 1 tom, and we were right in the money. Everything was going great. And then all of a sudden he just took off running, and we had no idea what was going on. And we turned around and there was another hunter walking in right behind us. So
public land?
Yes.
Yep. And that, oh man, were you guys calling at all?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that he like heard the calling and thought it was something going on?
I think he did. We were on Daniel Boone National Forest, so there's quite a bit of land, but it's so crazy when you get to the right spot and there's so many people in the same area you want to be in.
Yeah, that's tough. Now, did you guys beat him senseless, or how did you deal with? No, just kidding.
No, we just walked up and said, hey, thanks, nice to meet you. Are you local?
Because you ruined my hunt.
Right. Yeah, we were polite, but.
Did he apologize?
Yeah, he did.
Good.
Yeah, he said he had no idea. He just heard and thought it was an actual hen, and he was trying to get ahead of the hen. So.
Well, good for you on the calling then.
Right.
Yeah. You're like,
well, I can't take credit for it. That was my boyfriend. He does the calling, and he does awesome.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of call does he run?
He runs
like slate calls, mouth calls, box calls.
Mouth call.
Mouth call. Yeah, that's a different set of skill. I can't quite get comfortable with it. I've tried. Ryan can kind of do it.
As it turns out, I can do specific ones, which I was never big into turkey hunting until recently. I guess I'm not that big into it, but
shot a turkey.
I've shot a few turkeys, and the mouth call, surprisingly, I can do well until I put that other one in. And as it turns out, they cut them differently, and it makes different noises completely.
Yeah.
We're sitting in South Carolina, and Kyle's like, okay, do another one. And I just spit out this terrible honking noise, and he goes, what the hell was that?
I was so mad. We need this right now. No, well, I didn't know this. It's like mouth calls, they're all cut in a specific way. And based on the way the airflow works in your mouth, which apparently yours is the slow version, but no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Whatever cut is the way the airflow works in your mouth is what determines what it's going to sound like. And
yeah, because when we got back to
it turns out you are not a fan of the ghost cut.
No, because when we got back to the truck, I put the other one in, and I was just playing around and doing it flawlessly.
I don't like, dude, I know I'm not very good with it, but it tickles my tongue so much when I do it right that it's like being uncontrollably tickled. I'm like, this isn't practical.
Everything about it feels unnatural. You're sitting there going,
Yeah. I'd be borderline better off without it. I got the box call and the slate call down pretty good though, and then that started to really work. And that was the cool thing too about the ones in Michigan was when I was doing the slate call, I'd be like, and they would just go bonkers, all screaming at me. I'm like, this is the greatest day of my life. Yeah, that was pretty special. But I wanted to.
We actually got really good footage of, when the hens were going crazy because the second day we ended up losing to a live hen.
Oh, really?
She ended up taking the tom off with her, but prior to that, my boyfriend, he was calling for us, and he had that tom going. And, I mean, it was, we're deep in a holler in Kentucky, so it is just echoing all over and all around. And it is the craziest sound ever. Like, if anybody listens to that video, they'll instantly want to be a turkey hunter.
Yeah.
That might be the first time I've heard holler used
properly.
Like in a real
I knew what she
fashion.
was talking about.
Yeah. I hearing that gobble, I don't know how to explain it, but it is just you feel it in your chest. It's a it's a different feeling. I remember my very first morning where I harvested a turkey. It was the very first time I got to finally hear one too. I was by myself. This is years ago. I was just a kid, and I'll never forget. I was using a box call, probably terribly, but I used it, and I got to see my very first gobble. I got to see him do it, and it was one of those mornings. And when he did it, I could see his breath.
Oh, that's cool.
From the moisture in the air, like when it was cold out too. And I'll never forget that I wasn't sure if I was hearing somebody walk up behind me or if it was the heartbeat in my neck. I was hearing it so loud. I was just like, this is unbelievable. But just that when they get all stretched out and look silly, you show someone a video of a turkey gobbling for the first time. They're like, why did they do that? They're like, it's kind of like they're doing it on purpose. I'm like, it reminds me of throwing up. Like, it definitely seems like they don't have it. They didn't make the decision to do it. It feels,
It's like an impulse.
It does look like an impulse. But, well, I'm glad to have a turkey expert as well as a LEM game processing expert on with us. And I wanted to talk about some of the products that were there and some of the things that set aside what makes LEM my favorite brand. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was what we used for the turkeys was the vacuum sealer. So the way that I processed the game was because there was some shot pellets in one of the breasts, what I did was I took that breast out, that side, and I cubed it. So I basically cut it into squares, got all the things off, the little gummy things that you wouldn't want to eat. I got all those off and then cubed it up into squares so it was just white meat. And then all the areas that it was very clear that a feather got drug in where the pellet was, I was able to analyze, see if there was anything in there, and then rinse out any blood that might be on the meat and just be able to make sure that there was no pellets going on. And my plan for that is to make boneless turkey buffalo wings. So I'm a big fan of buffalo wings in general.
Those are really, really good when he makes them.
Yep. I do a mixture of I do 1/3 pancake mix, 1/3 flour, and 1/3 breadcrumbs. And the pancake mix gives it a little sweetness. The flour gives it the right crisp, and the breadcrumbs give it a bigger crunch. And then I do Rufus Teague, which is they have a poultry seasoning. I do that on them in that mix, but I soak them in milk for a minimum of 6 hours. So I take them out of that milk and then roll them into that mix, that batter, and I cook them. I really, really, really like peanut and corn oil. I know they're not the healthiest, but I really, at the end of the day, if you're frying in oil, you're not doing that great for yourself anyhow, so you might as well enjoy it. But I've grown to love corn oil the most, even over peanut. And the corn oil is what we did with the grouse. And I'm just really impressed with it. Yeah, I've just been having really good luck with it. And it'll run your car now, so that's cool.
That's true. That's true.
But anyhow, I'll fry it in there for, 10, 11 minutes. And it's just fantastic. And then you can sauce it with whatever sauces you want. So I cubed up those, and then I did the vacuum sealer. Now, I want to talk about the vacuum sealer as far as product goes. First and foremost, with the LEM vacuum sealers, I've used competitors as well. And when you go to seal, like when you click the thing down to know that the bag is sealed, on most competitors, it's like very flimsy. Like there's not like a big commitment. With LEMs, it clicks so much. You're like, did I break something? Because it clicks so ferociously.
Super tactile.
Yeah. So there's no mystery of whether you did it right or not. Then the bags that LEM has, there's like all these ribs and lines in them. And they suck out the moisture better than anything else that I've ever had, as far as like whenever you vacuum seal and things are wet, some of them have ribbing or like kind of whatever. This is like heavy, hardcore, heavy-duty stuff.
Multiple lanes just for that. Get sucked right out.
Absolutely no problem with moisture with these guys. And that's what I like about them. But I know you're the expert on them, but that's, from a consumer use standpoint, that is the difference that I've noticed in that as opposed to any of the competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, in my personal life, I'm also an LEM products consumer. That's prior to working here, I used LEM products. But I did own a couple different brands of vacuum sealers before. And what I found is we ended up going with the MaxVac 1000. We have an employee discount here, so I went with the biggest and the best.
Yeah.
You got it.
So the MaxVac 1000, it's an absolute beast. And there's no competition for it. It's the best of the best. Now, granted, when we say it's heavy duty, it is extremely heavy.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a permanent fixture in our kitchen, but we use it almost daily. And, it's fantastic. We've never had any issues with it. And like you said, the ribbing on the bags is really beneficial. And when you have a vacuum sealer that has more power, it makes it all better.
Yeah. The importance of meat being able to last, for us especially, is just so crucial because, for instance, yesterday we did a cooking segment, and the cooking segment was we were cooking Asian carp. I believe it was a silver carp, the one that I know that probably doesn't sound too appetizing. Was not bad, by the way, but because they're plankton eaters, they're not the bottom feeders like most carp, so they're the ones that jump out of the water in the Missouri River and stuff. But we vacuum seal that with a LEM vacuum sealer, and that meat was almost 4 years old, but there was no problem with it. We were just saving it for this cooking segment, and it was completely fine yesterday.
Trust isn't built in a day. It's built over time. The early hours and the late nights. It's built by doing the work and pushing the limits every day. Because the promises we make are the promises we were built to keep.
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Motor Trend's Truck of the Year for the third year in a row. And by Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Tracker Boats, fish the finest. And by these other fine sponsors.
Just the importance of vacuum sealing in order to keep your meat good is there. There's like, I've heard it talked about before, is like there's a group of hunters that are like not really, really into it, where they like buy it, they go out, they do the hunt, they like it, they do process it, but then like 3 years goes by, it's freezer burned, and then they chuck it. Mm-hmm. And that does happen with a lot of people, and life gets away from people too. It's like you have to cook, or if it's wild game, you're not going to get it. DoorDash isn't going to come cook it for you. So, you kind of have to do the processing. You kind of have to do all the work for it, and it can go bad that way. But if you vacuum seal it, when the meat's going to be fresh and it's going to be great, and there's not going to be like things you have to cut away and stuff because it's freezer burned, it's just such a big component to enticing people to eat the meat, which I think is good because it's being taken care of properly. And at the end of the day, if you're just using like Ziploc bags or freezer paper and stuff, it's like, you get 6 months, maybe, yeah. And then stuff starts to get sketchy, especially fish.
I enjoy the assembly line aspect of it, like we've been doing.
Yeah, AJ's really gotten into it this last year.
This is a fun little time-consuming activity.
Yeah, it's like whenever we get home.
You have the good life, too, because you got the foot pedal.
Yeah, that's true.
Years and years without using a foot pedal.
And it's my first time using one, so I was like, this is all I know.
And the foot pedal's for the grinder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the Big Bite grinders are another product that we use as well. We're talking about when we've gotten AJ. So AJ, just so you know, our director, his background wasn't in hunting like Ryan and mine and Jeffrey was. his background was actually just in television. So when he came in, at first he had only had wild game from a choice few people that didn't know what the hell they were doing cooking it. So he was like very jaded and not as interested in trying it. Then we started cooking it the proper way and explaining how to process things properly, and that's completely changed your mindset on the whole thing.
Yeah, I can even do it now.
Yeah.
Which means I just don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Anymore, except us.
I'll tell you what, though. Once you process your own game, and then, like, when people are like, ew, you got your steak medium well, it's like, well, I know what happens, and I know I didn't do it when I got it at this restaurant, so, yeah, I'm doing medium well. Like, you want the buffer.
Yeah.
Like, because you know the processing that takes place, and you know what kind of corners are cut. Because I had a deer processed for me one time because I didn't have the time to do it. Whatever, it was back-to-back trips or the weather was hot. There was a bunch of variables working against me, and I saw what I got back. And those are people that are skilled butchers. Well, it's going to be the same thing with cow then. When you go to a restaurant, it's going to be the same thing with chicken when you go to a restaurant. So it's like, not that you wouldn't get your chicken medium well, but you start to get that possessive nature over it. And now that's the meat you cook with pretty much every time. Luckily, we get enough of it you can.
We've been stocked for almost a year-ish now.
Yeah, the buffalo and the moose that we got really went a long way for us, and we did all of the processing with straight LEM equipment.
Yeah, we did.
And the meat grinder is AJ. That's in the assembly line process that we've invented here at the office. That's his. No one's allowed to touch it. So he hooked up the foot pedal, which did make a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Because then you don't got to click the button every time you want to drop it in there. And I want to talk about the big bite grinders. There's different sizes for them. And you can go up to, I think ours is like 1.5 or 1.75 horsepower, something like that. It's a monster.
It's not fun to carry around.
No, that's a staple in the. Yeah, that one's pretty much commercial. I think because we have either a half horsepower or a 3/4 horsepower as well, and that fully did a moose.
Yeah, it did.
Fully did a moose, like without any reluctancy whatsoever.
Oh man,
what do you think about?
That just reminds me, on that smaller one, we forgot our the grinder thing at the studio.
We did forget it there. We filmed that buffalo. Have you seen the buffalo cooking segment we did for History Channel yet?
Oh, it's still there.
Oh yeah,
it?
and we when we cleaned it, we took apart the grinder and we left the auger at there, and we keep forgetting to grab it.
What made me think of that was the small one's plenty, but when I went to go use it to do my deer as well as Isaac's deer, I had to use the big one because it was the only available one, and I carried it over to my house, which was miserable because it's so heavy. And it was such overkill. It was so big. We were done in seconds grinding this meat.
Oh, okay.
As big as you can fit a piece of meat in a big bite grinder, even the half horsepower, the 3/4, you take a huge hunk of muscle and you drop it in, and it's as fast as you drop the thing in, it's
going.
It's
through.
as if gravity was all it needed to get all the way through and out the other side instantaneously.
It was so fast.
And we've dealt with crappy old grinders where you're like pushing with the thing that you're actually not even supposed to use it to push. That's not what it's for. It's only supposed to be to like get the meat to the hole. You're not supposed to like use it to drive the meat through the grinder, but for the pretty much every other brand. I mean, the other one that we had at one point, I'll say, I don't care, it was a Weston, and they're supposed to be the best in comparison to LEM, and we had to like shove every and
it's overheating, and you gotta turn it off.
You gotta like fight for every inch you could get through that thing.
Or you gotta take the end off 100 times to clean out all the sinew and stuff.
So I can't recommend the big bite grinder enough. But talk to us too. One of the big, I guess, calling cards of LEM is one of the issues we've had as well, or I've seen other people have. I should say, Ken. He had a competitor brand for years. Well, he wants to juice tomatoes. His family cans tomatoes every year. So they want to do whatever the canning of tomatoes, whatever they do to do that process. Mm-hmm. They use meat grinders with like attachments to it. But a lot of the companies, they make the grinder, but they don't have like the attachment thing made by that company. So then you have to get an aftermarket one. Well, that person doesn't make that part anymore. Well, how come this doesn't match up? And then supply chain issues and whatever other BS these companies can come up with. The one thing about LEM is that it's an ecosystem. Each product is based around an ecosystem. So the meat grinder being such a big one and kind of our big calling card at LEM, talk to us about the ecosystem that is the big bite grinders.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing about the big bite grinders is we really do have everything to get you from start to finish, regardless of what activity you want to do. Like you mentioned, the juicer, if you've got tomatoes you want juiced, we've got the attachment for it. We've got some attachments that slice meat. So we've got the meat slicers, mixers, pretty much everything you need to get you from point A to point B. And around the ecosystem, we also have, all of the things that you need, like jerky cannons, jerky guns, where you've got the meat, you ground it up, now you're putting it in the cannon. You've got your seasonings, you've got the dehydrators. We really do, we are a one-stop shop for all of the things that you might need to get you from point A to point B.
Even if you attack it from different sides, because there is different ways to do, like, for instance, there's different ways to do jerky. Oh, you like the jerky that's made out of burger? Because that's a thing, right? There's people that want it in the jerky gun and they want it out of that way and then they put it in the dehydrator. Or you can do the jerky slicer, where if you like the more whole cuts of meat, that's what I did with duck. And that was funny too, is like the big bite grinder, think of it more as just an engine for a variety of different things.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
it can be a meat grinder, but it can also be the engine for everything else. So I attached the slicer on the front of it, and again, dropping goose and duck breast through, it would slice them all perfect to the perfect thickness and length for making jerky out of whole cuts. You like the whole cut one better than the burger, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
What about you, AJ?
I like them a little more. The burger, I think, the wet stuff.
Well, we're saying
It's more like a texture.
you can take like the actual muscle
Mm-hmm.
or the actual meat and not grind it and dehydrate it, or you can grind it and then dehydrate it. So I prefer not ground, whereas some people like it ground.
Yeah, I think I like it ground.
Okay, and then but with that,
I like both.
with that I also like it to be like dry.
Yes.
I don't like any
No sponge.
no moistness to it at all.
How about you?
It really is the great debate.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it either way. I would say if I had to pick a favorite, though, I would say sliced muscle jerky. And I do like it a little bit more moist than dried.
I'm with
Gross.
you. I am the moist whole muscle. That's
Yep.
that's the way that I like it.
No moist for me.
No, but I do love the fact that you can, like I said, you put that slicer on there, drop it through. Oh, you're interested. Oh, you want to do it with burger? Okay, well then you're gonna put it through this grinder, and then we have this attachment and this gun for this, and then you can do it this way. Oh, you need the paper to put it on? We have that too. Oh, you would like it to slice out of there and onto the paper directly? No problem. One of the things AJ got to use a lot too for moose was, oh, you'd like perfect 1/3 pound burgers? No problem. There's an attachment to go on the grinder that you put the meat in. So you're putting in a whole muscle. You drop it into the meat grinder. It grinds it and then spits it into these patty things, and it makes perfect patties, and then you flip it over and drop it on the paper, into a vacuum sealed bag. Now you got 2 perfect burgers, exactly the same size, exactly the same thickness, into the vacuum sealer, done, good to go. There's so many attachments, there's so many different things, and then the foot pedal to make it more effective as you're rolling through the whole thing. If you are serious about deer hunting, especially, or any kind of wild game really, but especially like the deer hunting and like the big cervids, moose, elk, that sort of thing, I can't even imagine doing it another way now. Number one, it cuts the time down in probably by 40-50%. But not only does it do that, I know, not only that, everything's done properly, and it's going to last a lot longer in the freezer. And you do not want to come back, something I always hate is when people be like, it's a 28 gauger thing to say, but as soon as you get a deer and they're like, well, this is where the real work begins.
Oh yeah.
And I always hated the guy that would say that, because number one, you should be pumped about it because you got a deer and now you get to that's the fun part to me.
Yeah.
But this keeps it fun.
Yeah.
This is the way to keep it fun. But as far as if there was one LEM product to buy, I don't know, it'd be tough to not say the vacuum sealer just because it's so much better than the others. And if you've ever used a shitty vacuum sealer, you might as well just throw it in the street. I mean,
It's true.
It's there's no point in having
Yeah.
a different one. But the meat grinder really does have so many different attachments and things you can do. So it's kind of a tough.
It is a tough one.
Going back to the vacuum sealer in our turkeys, do they make a vacuum sealer that would fit a whole turkey?
A whole turkey? I don't know. Well, technically, I don't know. It depends on the width.
It'd be the width, because then you could make your own bag, but it would be you're subjected to.
Because you make your own bag. You got unlimited length.
Right.
And there is a lot of different widths. I think it might. I don't know.
I don't
We
know how
use
big.
our MaxVac 1000 a lot for ribs, so that because you've got that wide width and because the length, you can make your bag as long as you want it to be. So it's perfect for ribs. But it would just depend on the size of the turkey.
Yeah, how
Pretty
big are
big
they
turkey.
without feathers?
It was decent. It would be. I should have waited. I probably still could.
Like
Because
Thanksgiving
I don't have the vacuum sealer that's big enough for it. What I had to do, my vacuum sealing process this time was, with the whole skin turkey, was I wrapped it in
Yeah, what did you do for a whole turkey?
I wrapped it in saran wrap, then wrapped it in foil, and then more saran wrap,
Just cook the damn thing.
and then I put it in a garbage bag, and used a vacuum and sucked all the air out and zip tied it shut, and then put another garbage bag and vacuumed all the air out and then zip tied it again.
Yes.
Wow, that was a process.
So what
Yeah.
I did, because it made a lot more sense, was I just butchered.
I want to smoke it.
I butchered my whole turkey, and then, like I said, I chunked the one breast. The other breast I left whole, and then I took out the legs.
Yeah, have
Let-
fun with your scraps.
Well, oh yeah, your quarter ounce of back meat really beat me up. I'm a big proponent for turkey legs. Have you ever cooked them?
I have not. We've had smoked turkey legs, but I have not cooked them personally.
I've had bad experiences, and I've seen a lot of people have it. The same thing is like you cook these wild turkey legs, and you look at it in the oven, and it like comes out, and you're like, "This is gonna be great." And you take a bite, and it's tendons and sinew, and it's just it's rough. They have something like 23 or 26 bones in their legs. It's insane. Will you look that up, Ryan? It's one or the
Yeah.
other. How many legs in it? How many bones in a turkey leg?
How
I
many
think
legs
it's
in a bone?
26 or 23. Those numbers are ringing a bell. But anyhow, what I found was a little tip is it actually ended up being my favorite meat on the turkey now. What I do is I take the whole leg, and what I'll do is I clean it up because you got to get all the feathers and stuff out. I'll be honest, it is a little bit more of a pain than say like the breasts. But you clean it up really good, and you put it in a crock pot. You do something like 14, 15 hours on low, and I use chicken stock. And by the time it's all done, all the bones and ligaments and all the different things separate from the meat, and you like lift out the bone, and it's just everything's off of it. And then you pour out the broth, and you take everything out, and you separate you just take out all the bones and ligaments. They're all just right there. It's very easy. You just pick them out. You double check everything, and then I'll take a fork and I'll shred all the meat. And then I'll take that meat and put it in a pan, and over medium-high heat, I'll add just a little bit of like a half a tablespoon of olive oil or corn oil, and I'll sear it, and then I'll take a 1.5 cups of water, and I'll put in a bunch of taco seasoning, and I'll mix that together, and then I'll pour that over the meat, and then I'll lower it to low, and I'll just let it sit in that. I'll occasionally stir it, but I'll let it sit in that for like 3-4 hours, and then it becomes like the best taco meat you ever had. But it'll mess with you because it looks like pulled beef, but it tastes like pulled chicken. So it's like a weird, like you're seeing but you're not believing kind of deal. But it ends up being great. And then you don't have to waste anything. So I've been real happy with the turkey legs, and I took the whole one. And with our vacuum sealer, I was able to take the LEM thing. You can make it as long as you want. So I just straighten the leg, put it all the way in, vacuum sealed it, pulled it out, and it's good to go. So whenever I want to cook those, it's going to be presto. It's going to be super easy. But anyhow, I want to talk about what is it? Was I close?
I'm getting a lot of mixed answers on how many are
I'll
in there.
count next time how many I pull out of the crock pot.
Well, it seems like a lot of it, the issue is the tendons, but one of the questions online on like a forum is, why do turkey legs have so many bones, or whatever those are?
Exactly.
I don't know. So
Whatever those things are, it's like a mixture because they're kind of flexy,
Flexi.
but they're not.
he's describing exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if. I don't
And
know.
they're like all webbed into the meat too. But if you cook it right, it'll all come right out. No big deal at all.
I cannot find an answer on that.
Okay, well, we'll have to keep looking. The last product I want to talk about, mainly because we're super into fruit snacks around here, is actually the dehydrators. So when people think dehydrators, of course, you've got to do your meat, your jerky, like we're talking about, the argument between the burger version or the sliced version. But in addition to that is, and probably the best part of it, is dehydrating fruit.
Absolutely.
So I've been digging that. You can cut up strawberries. You can cut up pretty much anything. Dehydrate pineapple. You make chips, and you can make all kinds of cool stuff.
Apple chips.
Have
A
you
little cinnamon on
played
there?
with that at all?
Yep.
Yes, apple chips are by far the best. Get you a little bit of sugar and cinnamon right on top of that, and it is perfect.
Yes.
How thick are you cutting the slices?
Well, it's kind of along the same lines as the jerky. I don't like it completely dry and crisp, so just
Dang, you
I
like
would
that
say
wet too?
Pretty thin.
maybe like 2 centimeters thick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you go a little thinner, you can, or even you can probably just cook it longer either way.
Yeah.
Dehydrate it longer. But we have the big silver one that's like a big mirror. I like the chrome one. And that sucker, man, it is top of the line.
You can fit a lot in there too.
A lot.
There's like, I want to say 6, 7, 8 racks, something like that.
Like
There's
that.
a lot of racks.
There might be jerky in it
it's
right
8.
now.
No, you were supposed to get that out of there.
There might be jerky in it right now.
That jerky has been there for a minute then.
Well, it's preserved.
It is preserved a little bit.
It's dry.
Sure.
No, I made it moist. Yeah. Oh. But yeah, I've been really impressed with the dehydrators as well. And that ecosystem. You guys have the seasonings for the jerky. You guys have all the capabilities for the fruit and everything like that too. It's just another staple, a cool way to eat. It's like when people get an Instapot for the first time, that dehydrate, they're cooking everything in it and figuring out different ways to, do different things. In the same sense with the dehydrator, you just find so many different purposes and use for it. Now, given the fact that you guys have been a staple in the hunting and fishing industry for a long time, mainly because of the products and things that you would develop, what is like, as a consumer, and I know this is important to our audience and a lot of people in the industry, what is like your guys' stance on conservation, hunting, fishing, and all of that as a company?
I mean, conservation is so important. That's one of the main reasons that we're in business, is because, we support our customers and we support their vision for conservation. And, one of the main reasons that I love working for LEM is because their vision for customers and conservation really aligns with mine. And, one of the worst things that you can do as a hunter is let meat go to waste. So it kind of goes back to that whole ecosystem. We've tried to envision all of the things that a customer could need so that they don't have to say, this is too hard, I'm not doing it, pitch it. This is too time consuming, we'll do this later. And then the meat goes to waste. So that's something that we really don't want to happen. So we want to make the process as easy for our customers as can be.
Yeah,
It does that.
Yeah, it does. And I think from the standpoint of the company, that if I had to pick one reason why I like LEM, it's very nice that anything I get, anything I need to process, or any possibility of an idea I could possibly have on how to prepare something, there's going to be a product there that I can use, and I know the quality will be good. And that's pretty much the summary of.
Well, and it's like too, when you spend money on something, you getting something fun. There's always something crappy about, like, that just ruined, like, that makes it not so fun.
Yeah.
That's like with these products. You get it, you take it out of the box, and there's nothing chintzy or cheap about it. The whole thing is really, really well put together, where if you dropped it off the tailgate of your truck while driving down the road, you'd be like, oh, it survived.
Yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of, like you're saying, like you get a new product, new TV or a new bike or a new whatever, and you're like, why the hell would they have put this there? Or what's with, that's kind of cheap.
And when
that
I
kinda
was
sucks.
using the grinder last fall and I put rocks through it, it survived. No, I'm just kidding.
Not
Rocks
recommended.
through it.
Not recommended. Well, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us about some of your products and sharing good turkey stories with us. And it's an honor to work with you guys. I'm super pumped to be able to tell people about your products. so much about our show is about eating everything we get. Every single episode has a cooking segment. Every single episode ties that, aspect of it together. And it's important for us that when we're leading people to the path of eating what they catch, that we can do it honorably and, with products that we believe in. So for that, we thank you guys very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have a great day.